there, I'm Elizabeth Pietrzykowski, and I am the Registrar at the Rochester Museum and Science Center, and I've been working at the museum for over 7 years. For our RMSC hashtag behind the scenes look today, I will be answering some commonly asked questions about my work at the museum. So let's get started. So our first question is, what is a registrar and what do you do for the museum? So my job really is to implement policies and procedures around the collection. The RMSC has 1.2 million objects in its collection, which ranges from historical objects to archaeology to ethnology to zoology. So really everything and anything you could possibly ever want. So exciting. And so I have to make sure that we have the documentation for each of those. That we have the proper title, that we have photographs or reports on their condition, their history, things like that, so that staff and researchers, pretty much anyone, could find out something about the objects in our collection. As well as when an object is going out on loan, I make sure that the proper paperwork and documentation is done there. When something comes into the collection for a loan, so that we can put it on exhibit or really whatever else needs to be done, I have to make sure that we have the proper paperwork there so that we're making sure that there's proper risk management taken, and we are insured. So that's always, an important thing. If you have insurance on your house, you certainly want to have insurance on your collection. And then on top of that, I also deal with whenever things are offered to the collection for permanent use. So that often happens when someone is like, I have this thing and I don't know what to do with it, or I think it's got historical value. Would you be interested in it? And I will deal with those requests. So that's, a snapshot of my job, but really it goes so far beyond that with many other small things. But really it is making sure that the collection is properly tracked, cared for, and we know where things are and what we have in the collection. Our next question is, how did you get into this job? So I took a roundabout way of getting into this job. My background is in natural history and interpretation, which is just a long way of saying environmental education. And so I started as an intern in the education department under Dr. Calvin Uzelmeyer, working on cart demos. So every once in a while, if you're at the RMSC, you'll see someone at a cart doing some kind of demonstration of a scientific principle. And so I actually had created a few. One in particular, very proud of, is what you can and cannot compost. And then after that, I was very lucky to get another internship with the collections department under Catherine Moreno Santos to be able to 3D photograph our collection. It was a really interesting project in which we're able to create renderings that are somewhat, you can manipulate the object in them. And so it was a whole new world that opened up to me of history, really, and so many cool things that in the collection at the museum that I didn't necessarily know about at the time, and whole new possibilities. So after that, I was very lucky to be able to get a job as a registrar's assistant, working under Catherine, and learned so many valuable skills there that then allowed me to transfer into the registrar's role when she moved up. And it's been quite a ride since then, but it's been so awesome, and I'm very, very happy that everything turned out that way and that I was able to do the things I can do now. Our next question is, what is your favorite object in our collection? So that's a hard question for me to answer just because there are so many cool things in the collection that I would consider a favorite, but if I had to pick one, it would probably be our hawk mummy from Egypt. When I was growing up, I was really, really interested in Egyptian mummies and mummification. I did a science project actually for a science fair on mummies and mummified a potato, which was not exactly a complicated scientific process. It's pretty much just salt in a potato, but it was one of those sort of culminating moments when I started at the museum in the collections department, and I was told that we had these bird mummies, and I just absolutely was so excited to be able to not only see them but handle them and be able to be up close. Really brought out the kid in me for sure. So I would have to say that's got to be my favorite object in the collection. The next question is, what is one thing you didn't expect to do as part of your job? Probably the most unexpected thing that I've had to do as part of my job is taking care of some animals for some of our exhibits that have gone up in the past. So when we were putting together our Elements of the Extreme exhibit a few years back, we knew we wanted a live animal, and we had decided on a tarantula. So he was living in my office for a little while before he went on exhibit, and so I was just doing some general care for him. And then after that, when we had the genome exhibit come in, we knew we wanted to put together a portion of the exhibit that was the RMSC's contribution, which was called the Discovery Center, and part of that featured 4 leopard geckos that had different genetic traits that you could physically see. And so they lived in my office for a few months prior, which was kind of fun. I would definitely say they were my favorite office coworkers, as opposed to the tarantula. Just not really my thing, but it was still kind of a cool and unexpected thing that I've been able to do as part of my job. What kind of face-to-face interaction do you have with the public? I have a pretty good amount of face-to-face interaction, or just interaction with the public in general, even though my job may seem more behind the scenes. I am constantly fielding emails for inquiries about the collection and for research requests, both just to share information virtually, but also to have people come in and have access to the collection in order to perform research, in particular with our archaeological collection and our ethnographic collection. So that's one piece. I've also been lucky enough to be able to be involved with our After Dark team, which does the over 21 events at the RMSC. And so I have really worked on that, and that's definitely a face-to-face situation. Then, of course, I also help out by providing some behind-the-scenes content for social media. So that's kind of a virtual way of being face-to-face with people. And then lastly, I really do work on exhibits as well as programs. So we'll bring content to the public through label copy in exhibits, as well as during break weeks and other things, we'll either put up little mini cases that have some information from our collection, or we'll actually be physically at a table with objects. The next question is, what is your favorite exhibit that you've worked on? So it's really a toss-up between our Elements of the Extreme exhibit and our Sound Sense exhibit. They were really fun in somewhat different ways. Elements of the Extreme was really, really fun because I was able to really dive into the collection to an extent, but it was really also that I was able to, for the first time, formulate content in that way, and really connect collections objects to scientific principles, which was really neat. But Sound Tense, I think, was probably more exciting for me in many ways because I actually curated the majority of that exhibit. Um, I played the clarinet in high school, and I've always really enjoyed music, so it was an exciting thing to be able to go through our collection of Western instruments as well as our collection of ethnographic instruments and be able to pull things out that really have probably not been on exhibit either since we got it or haven't been on exhibit in quite some time, and formulate concepts that allowed those objects to really tell neat and new stories. The next question is, what is a cool story or memory that you have from working at the museum? So I think I'll go with a more recent one. I was actually able to travel as part of a traveling exhibit that's going around the country right now, actually, and is currently stopped in DC at the Renwick Gallery, which is part of the Smithsonian. We have our Carolyn Parker overdress, which is part of an exhibit called The Hearts of Our People, which has art from women Native artists, and it's an amazing show. And I was actually able to go out there to install the overdress in the exhibit, as well as being a curator for the New York State Museum for their object that was also in that show. We've been sharing that duty, but it was really neat because I was able to go someplace and see other artists' work, and also just see other museum professionals and see how they work and how this type of show is put together. Traveling shows are a completely different beast than in-house shows because you have to have a certain amount of robustness so that it can travel from place to place. So right now it's in DC, and then I believe the next stop it'll be going to is Tulsa. Our next question is, what is your favorite part of your job? I enjoy my job very much. I think that some of the things that I've been able to do are just beyond what I ever thought I would be able to do in my work. It really is a joy to be able to come in every day, and you don't necessarily know what's going to happen, but also you don't know what new object you're going to be able to handle or see or learn about. 1.2 million objects is a lot, so we all certainly don't know literally every little thing about every little object that's in the collection, so it's constantly a learning process, and I really enjoy that. Um, we are very lucky to live in a city where there's such a rich history. Rochester really was a happening place and still is a happening place. So, collecting for over 100 years has given us so many different objects that are able to tell so many amazing stories about different people from this area over time. And it's really an honor and a pleasure to be able to be a steward for this collection and for those stories and be able to share them for generations now and in the future. Our last question is, why is the museum important to you? The museum really hasn't been important to me since I was a kid. I used to visit when I was younger, and it was really a cool place to go. Then, of course, I got this job, and it kind of took on a whole new meaning to me because our institution, like many other cultural institutions, is a place for people to come together and to learn. And the RMSC is a great place for adults and children to come and learn something new and really take in whatever they're interested in. And so it's sparking curiosity in kids to become the next scientist, the next teacher, the next world leader, the next inventor, really whatever it is, whatever they're interested in. And, you know, I think that's extremely important to keep in this community, places like those. I know that, it's fun going from me being that kid who was really interested in science and didn't know exactly what she wanted to do to now I am the registrar at the Rochester Museum and Science Center, and I am able to have that impact on new generations. I am able to hopefully spark curiosity in the hearts of adults and children alike, and hopefully they can go forward and make a greater impact because of the things that they've learned at the RMSC. So yeah, it's a great place, and I really, really love it.